You're listening to Living Full Out with Nancy Solari. As a professional motivational speaker, Nancy can assist you to blow through your setbacks and start living full out. If you have an inspirational story you want to share, email us at connect@livingfullout.com. Once again, here's Nancy.
Hello and welcome to the Living Full Out Show. My name is Nancy Solari, and today we're going to be talking about prioritizing what brings you joy. After all, if it brings us joy and allows us to thrive, let's scoot that up. Let's make that top of the list, right? But so oftentimes we put other things before ourselves, before our joys. And today we want to self-correct that and restructure that priority list. We also want to make sure that you stay with us because in our next segment, we're going to be joined by Kathrine Switzer. Oh my goodness, she was the first official woman to run the Boston Marathon, but it just didn't stop there. She just kept on running in more ways than one, and you'll hear her story. So inspiring. And we want to make sure that you listen to us wherever you are, whether you're at the gym, which, I admire that when you're there because take me with you. You can listen to us on the Living Full Out Show app. It's free. Just go to the App Store, or if you're taking a road trip, you can listen to us as well. And of course, go to livingfullout.com. All of our episodes will be there for you, but we want to make sure that as you're considering prioritizing that joy list, sometimes you might need to hear today's show again and again. And so, feel free to share it with a friend to get them inspired as well. Now, I am getting word from our producer that we do have a listener on the line. Let's go check in with them. Hello, welcome to the Living Full Out Show.
Hi, Nancy.
Hi there. How can I help you?
So I'm about to graduate from college, and I'm really getting more independent. And the older I get, the further I get away from my parents. How can I remain close with them even though I'm adulting and moving away?
Oh, that is such a thoughtful question. And I got a couple ideas for you. Okay. So oftentimes parents give their kids care packages, but you too could give them care packages. They might just need it as you kind of go off and start living your life, because really there's going to be so many really exciting adventures and some that are going to be really hard and are going to test your patience. And those are good ones because they allow you to grow. But oftentimes parents, they want to live through their children. They want you to keep them updated. So anytime you can send them some sort of a care package, whether it's literally sent through snail mail, maybe it's something like their favorite beverage or something that would remind them of the two of you. Maybe you watched a lot of movies together and it's sending them popcorn and a movie, whatever that looks like. And maybe you could watch it with them remotely by phone. The other thing that you want to consider is just really maximizing all the different ways in which we can communicate. And what I mean by that is, like, for example, I say this all the time, but my mom is one of my best friends, and I constantly send her text messages. And not like 5 a day or anything, but really by random. And I'll text her and tell her I love her, or I'll text her and kind of recall a brief memory. And then sometimes I like to super kibosh her if I know she's playing cards with her friends and she's going to answer the phone on her 007 Apple Watch where it's, heard by everybody. I'll call her up and just tell her I love her and make her feel special when I know she's with all her friends. And then sometimes you want to maybe even go a little deeper, not just on a Thanksgiving or on a birthday or a holiday, but sometimes actually sitting down and writing an email or writing a letter. And there's a lot of, thoughtfulness that goes into that. And that is something that they will either keep and treasure forever, or they'll save it if it's in an email. And sometimes just go back and read it all the time. Life is so interesting because we feel that we're invincible, at different stages of our life. But the truth is we never know where life is going to take us, for good or for bad. And so the more you can love on those parents, the better. Now, my mom, again, she's still out there living, thriving. My dad has passed. And it was really important to me to make sure that although he lived in Washington State, I lived in Oregon, that from time to time I made a special Nancy Dad weekend. That meant my sisters couldn't come, his other daughters couldn't come. And so I think sometimes it might be good to just carve out individual time with them. Have you considered doing any of those?
Yeah, that sounds like a great idea. I think I could definitely make an effort to try to take my mom out to lunch or grab a bite to eat with my dad, without my little brother, without each other, and just kind of spend some one-on-one time together.
And have fun with it. Get super creative. This next idea I'm going to give you, you can do with parents, but also maybe a significant other. Sometimes sneaking in little things, like let's say they have a book that they read all the time, and they're maybe in the early stages of the book. Take a little Post-it, post on page 79, little Post-it. Guess who loves you? When they get to 79, poof, there you are. Or, before you leave the house and maybe they're seeing you off and they're going to be sad, maybe stick another Post-it up on their bathroom mirror. So when they're kind of sad and they saunter upstairs and they're thinking of you and that you travel home safe, there you are, right on the mirror. Guess who loves you, right? So I think sometimes we can be really playful with loving people in our life. It's just about kind of being creative, meaningful, and if you do that, you're definitely going to not lose touch with them in any way. But all they really want for you to do is go out there and live and thrive. So I think the more you can report back on how life is going, they're just going to love to live through you. Can you do that?
Yeah, that sounds awesome.
Yeah, no, it's good. And wow, we need more daughters like you, honestly. We'd love to replicate you. That's awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for calling in.
Thank you.
And I love that she asked that question, because the thing is, we are talking today about prioritizing what brings us joy, and relationships should bring us joy. If you have a relationship that doesn't, it's time to snip or distance yourself. But to put a priority to something means that you're putting time and effort into it. So just like I gave her a variety of ways in which she can express her love to her parents, you want to take that same passion, that same tenacity and vigor, and you want to apply it to all areas of your life. But that's how you're going to know what is a priority. So if you're someone like myself, I'm raising my two hands, right, who's like, oh, I want to get in shape, right? Well, if I really put, having a 2-pack or a 6-pack of abs, I would have it, right? But I do put other things before that, loving on my fur babies, or, working with my team at Living Full Out, or, going wine tasting with my girlfriends, because I do enjoy my friend time. For some reason, that all comes before working out. Now, at the same time, we have to prioritize our life, not just in the way of fun, but also in the way of being able to live our best life. So what I mean by that is, we know that if you put gas in the car, oil in the car, clean your car's going to run better. So it is the same philosophy for you. So if you do stretch in the morning, if you do work out, if you do feed your mind with positivity, spirituality, whatever that may be for you, that's better than, killer thrasher movies all the time, right? The mind is a really important neighborhood in your life. You want to protect it. You want to make sure that you're putting words of affirmation that are positive and good entertainment into your mind. But again, even that has to be a priority. I'm really aware when I flip on my TV, I want to take in true stories. I want to take in inspiration. And so it's with a choice of all of us. Now, when you consider what you're going to prioritize, because that is the point of today's show, I want you to, first of all, sky's the limit. Just get 20 things down on paper that you'd like to achieve, you'd like to do, changes you want to make in your life. Then I want you to shuffle them around. Some might shuffle to the top just because of the urgency of time. Others might shuffle to the top because you're just longing for fun or connection with friends. It's going to be different for everybody, but then shuffle that list, and then you got to put time parameters to that. So when are you going to start achieving those? What is a deadline? What time, people, money might you need to make that aspiration come true? But when you do that, when you prioritize your joys, you know what? That's a large part of what it means to live full out. And then you'll be really glad that you took today to put that list together. Now, stay with us because Kathrine Switzer is coming up, and I am telling you, she is like... she's like Mountain Dew for my ears, right? She's got so much energy, but she's a heart of gold, and she is truly a trailblazer, and her story will inspire you. So this is the Living Full Out Show, and we'll be coming right back after this break. Stay with us.
Life looks a little different. During these times, we're doing our best to keep our minds and bodies strong. And getting a flu shot helps us stay healthy, so we don't miss out on what matters. Like having game night at home. Yeah, can't do that while sick with the flu. Now imagine family movie night that your daughter can't live without. Well, that's ruined. And don't forget your uncle's socially distanced cookout. See? That's why it's important to be at our strongest. Every year, millions of people in the U.S. get the flu. Especially now, no one has time to miss out on moments that matter. So get your flu shot. Find out more at getmyflushot.org. Brought to you by the AMA, CDC, and the Ad Council.
Don't you wish your life came with a warning app?
Stop. That dog does not want to be petted.
Just a little heads up before something bad happens.
Move your coffee cup away from your computer.
Oh, no.
So you can have more control.
Stop. You're texting your boss by mistake.
Uh-oh. Well, life doesn't always give you time to change the outcome, but prediabetes does. With early diagnosis and a few healthy changes like managing your weight, getting active, stopping smoking, and eating healthier, you can stop prediabetes before it leads to type 2 diabetes. It's easy to learn your risk. Take the 1-minute test today at doihaveprediabetes.org.
Warning. The cap is loose on that ketchup.
Ugh. Don't wait. You have the power to change the outcome. Visit doihaveprediabetes.org today. That's doihaveprediabetes.org. Brought to you by the Ad Council and its pre-diabetes awareness partners.
Uh-oh, Brad's buzzed.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, he's starting with the woots. And now a speech.
I just want to say that friendship is about heart and brain. Who's with me?
Good thing is, he knows when he's buzzed.
And my brain is saying, when it's time to go home, somebody call me a ride.
Love that guy.
Me too.
Know your buzzed warning signs? Call for a ride when it's time to go home. Buzz driving is drunk driving. A message from NHTSA and the Ad Council.
Watch out! You got me!
The galaxy is safe once again.
In the pretend universe, kids play with pretend guns. In the real world, it's up to us to make sure they don't get their hands on a real gun. If you have a gun in the house, keep it locked, unloaded, and stored separately from ammunition. Safe gun storage saves lives. Learn how to make your home safer at endfamilyfire.org. That's endfamilyfire.org. Brought to you by End Family Fire, Brady, and the Ad Council.
Adopt US Kids presents What to Expect When You're Expecting. A teenager. Learning the lingo.
Today I'm going to help parents translate teen slang. Now, when a teen says something is on fleek, it's exactly like saying, that's rad. It simply means that something is awesome or cool. Another one is totes. It's exactly like saying, totally, just shorter. As in, I totes love going to the mall with Becca. Another word you might hear is jelly. Jelly is a shorter, better way to say jealous. As in, Chloe, I am like so jelly of your unicorn phone case.
You don't have to speak teen to be a perfect parent. Thousands of teens in foster care will think you're, rad, just the same. To learn more, visit adoptuskids.org. A public service announcement brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, Adopt U.S. Kids, and the Ad Council.
You're listening to Living Full Out with Nancy Solari. As a life coach, Nancy can teach you how to stay strong under pressure and work through challenges you face. Being legally blind, Nancy inspires others to be resilient in overcoming obstacles and live full out. You can ask Nancy for advice in your life on relationships, finance, business, health, and more. Just call in at 800-333-0001. Once again, that's 800-333-0001. Now, here's Nancy.
Welcome back. I'm Nancy Solari, and this is the Living Full Out Show. And today we're talking about prioritizing what brings you joy. And sometimes that's hard to figure out, and it takes a life of stumbling and picking ourselves up and cracking the code. And we have brought you an inspirational guest, like I said, a trailblazer, really. Oh my gosh, Kathrine Switzer. I don't want to give all her story away. I just want to bring her in right now so we can get started, because put on your seatbelts. It's time to rock and roll. Kathrine, welcome to the show.
Great, Nancy. I love rocking and rolling with you. We're going to have a good time.
We are. And again, there's so much to your story, but I first of all want to thank your dad for really giving you the guidance that you needed to see that running was cool, that running was going to be the access for you to not just go from being an insecure girl to a confident woman. But I'll be honest, Kathrine, I personally hate running. I mean, and maybe it's because I don't know how to do it well. And your dad even taught you that. I know he's one of your heroes in life, but he also gave you lots of great little teeny triggers of words of wisdom. What did he say to really open your eyes to it?
Oh, Nancy, this is such a good story. And I was thinking of my dad on my morning run this morning again, like I always do, and thinking, I should have been the president of the United States with the reinforcement that he gave me, because, kids need so much reinforcement. But anyway, my dad was the one who saw me as an insecure kid. Of course, I wanted to be a cheerleader, and he knew I wasn't going to be able to make the cheering squad, but that's not what he said. He didn't care about that. What he cared about, he said, honey, life is to participate, not to spectate. You want people to cheer for you, and you should go out and run. And I said, I can't run. No. And he said, you'd make the field hockey team in your high school. You'd be the best one. It's very motivating. And I said, but I can't run a mile a day, Dad, which is what he wanted me to do. And he said, yes, you can. Let me show you how. And we went out, and he said, honey, it's not about going fast. It's about finishing the job. And how many times in my life, 5 million maybe, I've said, just put your head down, get through this. It's about finishing the job.
Oh, see,
and,
I love that.
And just those things, just those kinds of things. And indeed, his wisdom about life is participating, not spectating, is so true. Because when you run, you're engaged, even by yourself. You're totally engaged with your surroundings, nature, God, meditation. It's been the best thing that's ever happened in my life, honestly. And I have to thank my dad every day for encouraging me.
Well, you were given a great daddy. And I truly believe that, people walk into our lives and inspire us and influence us to go in different directions. And I know that when you were in college, you met a volunteer coach, Arnie, who was a mailman by day and a coach in the afternoon, and he was a lover of marathons. But, the story, can get into all of how you met him and all that today, but he was really the one that heard you, that really saw your passion for running, that said, girl, show me what you got. So much so that in his eyes, you earned the ability to do the Boston Marathon and to at least try. And
Absolutely.
He helped you not just be one of those women that would just randomly jump in, unofficially. You wanted to officially do it. And so when you did that, though, women weren't running the marathon. So you kind of had to study the rules, and there was nothing in there about gender. So when you were filling out the application, and in some ways, thanks to your dad again for not being the best speller, what did you do? What did you decide to do to enter this Boston Marathon, not in a tricky way, but in a way that you could?
Well, Nancy, it sounds like I was smart and I knew all these things, which is not true. Arnie Briggs, he challenged me. He said he didn't believe a woman could run a marathon, and if I'd run a marathon in practice, he would take me to Boston. So he was stunned because we finished actually we did a 31-mile run, and he fainted. So he was convinced now that women had the potential, and me in particular. He was very, very proud of me. So he said he brought over the entry form, and I indeed was just going to jump in the race like Roberta Gibb had last year, the previous year. She did it in 1966. He said you shouldn't do that. You're a member of the Amateur Athletic Union. You got to fill out the entry form, and it's a serious race. This is a serious race, and you got to pay your entry fee, which is $2. Remember at the time that was a lot of money. But anyway, okay, I said. But on the entry form, there was nothing about gender. In the rule book, there was nothing that said the marathon was for men only. And I said, there's nothing about gender on this, Arnie. And he said, of course not. Men who run the organization don't believe any woman could possibly do it. And he said, but you've got to fill out the entry form. Well, by that time, I had been signing my name, thanks to my dad, K.V. Switzer, using my initials, Kathrine, Virginia, okay? And the reason I did that is because my dad misspelled my name on my birth certificate. He misspelled the Kathrine. And every time I submitted a paper or an article for anything, it always came back with my name corrected. And I got so tired of having a misspelled name corrected to be incorrect anyway. So I decided J.D. Salinger and E.E. Cummings could do it, so I could be K.V. Switzer. And so I filled in the entry form K.V. Switzer. So that's what you're leading to, and
absolutely. And I think a lot of people who follow your story may want to know how you came up with that, and where did these initials come from. So I really wanted to make sure, because you're famous out there, right? So, but I wanted to make sure that people understood Kathrine Switzer and KV Switzer, and they're all one person, and she's amazing. And you did run that marathon. However, it did come with a couple stumbles. And, I really encourage everyone to go to YouTube and check out more about Kathrine, because the whole events of that day are really wild. But the thing I want to just kind of impress upon is to know that you ran that. You were the first official woman. How did that make you feel?
Well, I was the first official woman to officially register and run. Mm-hmm. Of course, at the end of the race, I was disqualified, and I was thrown out of the Amateur Athletic Union. I was suspended from the Athletic Federation. But at the time when I filled in my entry form, I wanted to lay low. I didn't want to go to Boston and say, look at me, I'm a girl, I'm doing this, I'm busting the barriers. Was I a feminist in my own way? Yes, I wasn't what I would call an arch feminist. In those days, of course, we thought a feminist might be kind of a bad thing, but
but being a feminist is not a bad thing. It's interesting. You took that leap of faith. There were some consequences, but at the end of the day, you're somebody who would rather try and do than never to try at all. And to me, I admire that so much. Kathrine, I want you to stay with us because we're going to take a quick break. But for everybody today, it is about, prioritizing what brings you joy. Running brings our sweet KV, some call her Kathy, joy. So you got to find what brings you joy in your life. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Today in school, I learned a lot. In chemistry, I learned that no one likes me. In English, I learned that I'm disgusting. And in physics, I learned that I'm a loser.
Today in school, I learned that I'm ugly and useless. And in gym, I learned that I'm pathetic and a joke. In history, I learned that I'm trash.
Today in school, I learned that I have no friends. In English, I learned that I make people sick. And at lunch, I learned that I sit on my own because I smell. In chemistry, I learned that no one likes me.
In biology, I learned that I'm fat and stupid. And in math, I learned that I'm trash.
The only thing I didn't learn in school today?
The only thing I didn't learn today?
The only thing I didn't learn?
Is why no one ever helps.
Kids witness bullying every day. They want to help, but they don't know how. Teach them how to stop bullying and be more than a bystander at stopbullying.gov. A message from the Ad Council.
I'm Nancy Solari, certified life and business coach. I want to invite you to the Personal Development Boot Camp. During the boot camp, we're going to be looking at taking those insecurities that you have and getting rid of them. We're also going to look at ways in which you can thrive and live a life full of purpose. Go to livingfullout.com/bootcamp, livingfullout.com/bootcamp to sign up. I believe in you, and here's to you living your life full out.
They'll challenge your authority.
Put your seatbelt on.
They'll try to break your will. They'll push you to the edge of your sanity. Because that's what kids do. But this car is your territory, not theirs. Defend it. Who makes the payments? Who cleans it? Who drives it? You do. That's who. And in here, your word is law. So when you say you won't move until everyone's buckled up, you won't budge an inch. Until you hear that click. Never give up until they buckle up. A message from the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council. For more information, visit safercar.gov/kidsbuckleup.
7 million children suffer from asthma, more than any other chronic disease. Most asthma attacks are caused by allergic reactions to allergens, including those left behind by cockroaches and mice. In fact, 82% of U.S. households contain mouse allergens, and cockroaches are found in up to 98% of urban homes. How can you protect your family? Find out at pestworld.org. A message from the National Pest Management Association and the American College of Allergy, Asthma, and Immunology.
Get it, slip it, cuff it, check it. Talk to doctor now and share it.
I get it, slip it, cuff it, check it twice a day.
I get it, slip it, cuff it, check it in the morning and before dinner.
I get it, slip it, cuff it, check it, and share it with my doctor. Nearly 1 in 2 U.S. adults have high blood pressure. That's why it's important to self-monitor your blood pressure in 4 easy-to-remember steps. It starts with a monitor.
Now that I know my blood pressure numbers, I talked with my doctor. We're getting those numbers down.
Get it, slip it, cuff it, check it. Talk to doctor now and share it.
Be next to talk to your doctor about your blood pressure numbers. Get down with your blood pressure. Self-monitoring is power. Learn more at manageyourbp.org. Brought to you by the Ad Council, the American Heart Association, and the American Medical Association. In partnership with the Office of Minority Health and Health Resources and Services Administration.
You're listening to Living Full Out with Nancy Solari. With Nancy's expertise, you'll learn how to embrace your potential and strive for success. If you have a question or need further support, send us an email at connect@livingfullout.com. Now, here's Nancy.
Thank you for joining us today. I am Nancy Solari, and this is the Living Full Out Show. And today we're talking about prioritizing what brings you joy. And nobody has done that better but Kathrine Switzer, although she will even admit that she maybe should have prioritized things a little bit differently. And you'll know what I mean by that as we roll on in the interview. So, Kathrine, welcome back.
Thank you, Nancy, so much for having me. It's great to be on your show.
Oh, so nice to have you. And you know, we talked about your dad being one of the loves of your life, obviously, and Arnie, you know, being right there beside you in going for the Boston Marathon. And then, you know, what I appreciate so much is that, you know, some might think of the movie Jerry Maguire, you had me at hello. But when you think of your third husband, Roger, you always say, you know what? It was love at first voice. And I'm just curious, what is it about Roger that had you stop in your tracks? Because you're somebody who is really hard to stop. So
he absolutely did stop me in my tracks. We were sharing a speaking platform, and I had spoken, and I thought I did a really good job. Everybody was excited and pleased. But when he began to speak, I realized that it was sort of like when the gun goes off at the start of the race, you know, when you're beat sometimes, you know. He was so articulate. Of course, he had a gorgeous English accent, but he was so articulate, but he was also funny, and he was extremely interesting and insightful, had done research. He didn't just speculate, but he also spoke from the heart. So he was talking about joy. In other words, what the running all his life had given him joy. He was 43 when I met him, for heaven's sakes, and he had been running all his life like I had, and somehow that just resonated. It was a person who had been there, had worked hard, he had a great career. He took his work very seriously, but he found that great joy in running, and it was such a meeting of the minds. It was phenomenal, and it was very difficult for us because I had a career in New York, and I was well known here, and he had a professorship and was well known and famous in New Zealand. So we couldn't have been further apart. It's just like 10,000 miles. Oh my God.
Well, but you
distance relationships.
But you did make it happen, and I know that relationship, because you had two other marriages. One, first husband was a bit immature. The second husband, was a bit abusive. But you found, number three, right? And he was your forever man, and you needed that strong man by your side because you later went on to get, so many great accolades. There's so many to go with, but the main one is, getting the women's marathon in the Olympics. And it's really hard sometimes to prioritize all of these wins in Kathrine's life, but that was a big win. But also, you've had other wins. You helped be a part of a nonprofit, 261 Fearless, right? Because you're fearless, and 261 was your bid number. And so once again, here goes Kathrine. She's doing, she's inspiring, she's giving, she's lifting women up. And I just share that with our audience because that tenacity, that energy, that fearlessness, that is who you are. But sometimes life whispers at us and we may not hear the whisper, and then it knocks louder and louder and louder. And you did two things that you would call silly. And silly number one.
Stupid.
Okay, maybe stupid. I didn't want to call it out. But silly number one is, Kathrine, why at 74 did you feel like it was a good idea to jump off a high dive?
Well, because it was my birthday, my 74th birthday. And I was fit as a fiddle. I had just run the Boston Marathon 4 years before for my 50th anniversary. I was unstoppable. And the problem is, and the joy also, is if you age well and you're healthy, you can't imagine you are really 74. I always felt, well, I'm about 30, maybe 25, 30. But you just don't realize your body has changed in many ways that you just, can't necessarily perceive it. Like, for instance, it was quite normal at 74 to have my bones begin to thin a little. Just normal. It happens to everybody who gets older, right? I was running every day. I had perfectly strong bones. But when I jumped off the high dive to raise money for my charity, which I thought was kind of a cute idea, watch this old lady jump. She's fearless, right?
But when you jumped though, yeah. Kathrine, what were your injuries?
I hit the water on my back because I kind of went in sideways, because I was whooping and yelling at the top of the high dive. And it was great fun up to that point. But I broke my vertebra in my back in two places, and I broke two ribs, and I broke my sternum. And it was like being totally rear-ended in a car accident because everything, was pushed forward, and that's what broke the ribs.
Now I want to just pop in. I want to pop in real quick because you were a mess, and you had to be kind of bedridden for several months to get healed. But you also were a doer. You still were a doer. It really took Roger to wrestle you down to, even at that point, to slow down. But you also missed a cue that I really want to make sure we briefly touch on today, and that was that your doctor kept saying, get your shingles vaccination, and you kept saying, I'm too busy. And we all say that, Kathrine, but really, knock, 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 what did shingles do to you?
Well, that is actually what has really messed me up. when I turned 70, she said, get your shingles vax. I said, okay, let me get through the Boston Marathon and then I'll get it. Well, after the Boston Marathon, I had speeches every weekend. I was so busy. And I said to my doctor, I must get this, but I just need to find 3 days when I can have a bad reaction, assuming I would have a bad reaction. And of course, time went on and a year and a half passed and I got the shingles. As soon as I got over the back problem from the high dive, probably lying there with all that stress, because shingles is brought on by stress. When I got up and started moving and I realized how much I had to do, but I had to be careful, boom, the shingles came down. And honest to God, it was the worst thing I have ever been through in my life. Mine manifested itself behind my eye. So, it was a touch and go thing in terms of my vision. And also the pain is insane. And finally, after a number of weeks, when the pain subsided, I was left, and I still have, 3 years later, something called post-herpetic neuralgia, which means, there's a constant pain in my eye and my eyebrow is on fire and the top of my head is still on fire because those nerve endings are still hot and damaged. So that could be forever. And that is a real lesson to all of us.
I'm
never,
curious.
Ever put off your health. Never put off your health.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I'm curious because if we're talking today about prioritizing what brings us joy, now that you know what you know, because again, my hat goes off to you. You're a go-getter, right? You've really made waves and made a huge impact for women all around the globe. But when it comes down to you, you're still Kathy to many, and I'm Nancy to many. It's not about what we do for a living. It's not about the awards we win. So how has all of this recent chaos reshuffled your priority list?
It's interesting, Nancy, because you're right. I always say yes to everything. And there's a plaque on my wall somebody gave me, which, in fact, my publicist gave it to me. It says, if it's not a hell yes, it's a no. And so, you can't be all things to all people. And interestingly enough, I'm just reading the Road Less Traveled. Believe it or not, it was a book of the 70s. And in it says you can't love everybody. You don't have the bandwidth to do it. But you just have to love who you can love and fit it in and do it well, because you're not looking after yourself if you're loving everybody else all the time. So it's been hard, but you know what I have? I've figured out how you can delegate love and joy. Believe it or not, when I started my nonprofit 261 Fearless, which is about giving women the opportunity to take their first step, to run, to walk, to find a safe community. And we have clubs all over the world now, 15 countries. Visit us, please, at 261fearless.org and join us. But anyway, I realized that this is the way I can really give back in a big way. And I felt, all my life, I felt like I have given back because, I felt obligated, if nothing else, because not only are most people absolutely wonderful, but my dad said you can't always thank the people who helped you. The best way to thank them is to pass it on. And so how can I pass on to the thousands of people who have given me wonderful accolades and joy and attagirls? Well, I created this nonprofit, and hopefully women who've never had an opportunity will have one.
And they will. And I just want to close out. I could talk to you for hours, but I just want to say one thing. You will always be that 261 bid number. You will always be fearless. But are you a bit more cautiously optimistic? Are you a bit more of a calculate your risk person now?
Yeah, I ask myself twice when I start to think about doing something. I say, okay, is that a wise thing to do? So I ask myself twice. I really force myself to stop and think. And I'm driving very, very carefully, probably too carefully. I'm trying to keep up with my health and my vision especially, and keeping healthy. Running, of course, brings me the biggest joy because it calms my nerves and everything. But the other thing I'm trying to do is to prioritize the things that make me sad by bringing them to the forefront and dealing with them. For instance, one thing that makes me sad is I have a beautiful home, but a lot of the rooms are a total mess because I have so many wonderful papers and accolades and attributes and all these things that people have given me. And what am I going to do with these things? I don't know what to do, and they're stacking up.
So you're taking
you're
taking moments, sadnesses, or things in your life you need to work on, and making them a priority. I love that. Now, Kathrine, you are like Mountain Dew for the ears, but I honestly thank you so much for being on our show today, and we're just going to continue to keep an eye on you and cheer you on, especially with all those rooms that you're going to decorate. But thank you, Kathrine, for being on the show. I appreciate it.
Oh, thank you, Nancy.
Yes, and for everybody today, it is all about prioritizing joy, prioritizing decorating the home, prioritizing times we need to pull back. If it's not a hell yes, then maybe it's a no. So it's all about stepping out there, living full out, and having joy. We'll be back.
To some people, the sound of a baby babbling doesn't mean much. But that's not necessarily true. By 6 months, they're combining vowels and consonants. By 9 months, they're trying out different kinds of sounds. And by 12 months, their babbling is beginning to take on some meaning. Especially if there's no babbling at all. Little to no babbling by 12 months or later is just one of the possible signs of autism in children. Early screening and intervention can make a lifetime of difference and unlock a world of possibilities. Take the first step at autismspeaks.org. A public service announcement brought to you by Autism Speaks and the Ad Council.
Most of us like to be out in the sun. That's why sunscreen and other safety measures are key to protecting your skin from aging and cancer. The FDA recommends using a sunscreen with a sun protection factor, or SPF, of 15 or higher. Also, look for broad spectrum on the label. That means both harmful ultraviolet A and B rays are blocked. UVA rays age the skin, UVB rays burn, and both cause cancer. But the perfect sunscreen doesn't count if you use it wrong. Don't need sunscreen on a cloudy day? Wrong. 80% of UV rays still get through the haze. Only use sunscreen at the beach? Nope. Anytime you're outside, UV rays attack the skin, so you need protection. And you have to reapply sunscreen every 2 hours. Remember, SPF plus broad spectrum equal healthy fun in the sun. Visit www.fda.gov/sunscreen for more information. A message from the U.S. Food and Drug Administration.
Right now, our country feels divided, but there's a place where people are coming together.
I gotta tell you, I was nervous to talk to someone so different than me.
Me too, but I'm glad we are.
Love Has No Labels and One Small Step are helping people with different political views, beliefs, and life experiences come together through conversation, and it feels good.
Wow, your story is so...
interesting?
Yeah.
When people actually sit down, talk, and listen to one another, they can break down boundaries and connect as human beings. At lovehasnolabels.com/onesmallstep, you can listen to amazing, life-changing conversations and find simple tools to start a conversation of your own.
I know one thing. This conversation gives me hope.
It gives me a lot of hope, too.
Take a step toward bringing our country and your community together by having the courage to start a conversation at lovehasnolabels.com/onesmallstep. A message from StoryCorps, Love Has No Labels, and the Ad Council.
All right, crew, let's get her dug.
Honey, want to give me a hand? I'm planting that tree, remember?
No matter how large or small your digging project may be, no matter how urban or rural, you must always call 811 before any digging project. 811 is our national one-call number, alerting your local utility companies to come out and mark any lines they have near your dig site. You must call 811 at least 2 to 3 business days before any digging project, so you can avoid hitting our essential buried utilities. This includes natural gas and petroleum pipelines, electric, communication cables, and water and sewer lines. So before you do this or this, make sure you do this. For digging projects big or small, make the call to 811. Brought to you by Common Ground Alliance.
When it comes to prioritizing what brings you joy, remember the key word is joy. So don't just put up at the top of the list the to-dos, the things that you feel like you have to do. Life is meant to be lived. I want you to put right on up there things that make you smile. Maybe they challenge you, but in a good way. Because you don't want to look back on your life and just know that, hey, you cleaned the floors beautifully. You want to get out there and know that you gave life your all and you're living full out.
You're listening to Living Full Out with Nancy Solari. As a professional motivational speaker, Nancy can assist you to blow through your setbacks and start living full out. If you have an inspirational story you want to share, email us at connect@livingfullout.com. Once again, here's Nancy.
Thank you so much for joining us today. It's been such a fast show, but really today we are talking about prioritizing what brings you joy. And I think we always have to remember that joy is kind of in the eye of the beholder, right? Because what might bring someone joy, like running, well, I'd be running away from that. But what brings me joy, like karaoke, someone would be like, nope, peace out. So it's interesting that you have to find sometimes, well, they might say your tribe, your group to run with, but it's important that you get out there and you just do it. And the reason why I say that is sometimes when we consider prioritizing what brings us joy, and let's say that's something we've never done before, sometimes the temptation is, gosh, I really want to do that, but I don't want to do it alone. But you might not have somebody that wants to do it with you. So if you want to go skydiving, you might not have a bunch of friends raising their hand going, yeah, I want to do that too. If you're on vacation somewhere and you're like, oh my gosh, I've always wanted to zip line. Well, your other folks with you may not be physically up for it or may not want to do it. So sometimes we have to think about, prioritizing what brings us joy. It's knowing yourself best. It's knowing and asking yourself, if I don't do this, can I live the rest of my days and it's totally good? Or is this something that, I want to be a part of my life story? And I share a couple of experiences with you because I saw Jaws when I was 10. So I have always been afraid of sharks. I mean, I just know that the one time I go in, neck deep, there will Jaws be, right? But it doesn't mean that I don't go in the ocean. I've had to kind of fight through that fear and prioritize things that I've always wondered about, such as scuba diving. Now, I did get PADI certified when I was in college and, did several, dives when I did see better. But I'll still scuba dive now in recent years. And one might say, well, Nancy, being legally blind, when you go underwater, what do you see? Well, I get creative because it does bring me joy to keep that skill going. I don't want to forget how to scuba dive. I don't want to know, how peaceful it is with the quietness of being underwater and being able to see all around me. I want to be able to always capture that. So what I do now is I just pay a little extra to the guide, and oftentimes they will dive down with me and they'll take my hands and maybe put it up to sculptures that are underground or statues, or maybe they'll catch fish and ask, bring me on over, and all the fish he'll release the fish and they'll go all over my face. It's a lot of fun to still push the envelope and find things that bring joy. Now, I'm also, again, right, terrified of that shark. So I've tested myself by doing kayaking on the ocean. I like kayaking. I grew up on a lake, several lakes, in fact. And a lake is kind of safe, but I'd never done kayaking on the ocean. I didn't know what that would feel like or be like. And it is much different, especially if there's, pretty ferocious waves. But then in my mind, I'm thinking, okay, what if this flips? What, how hard is it going to be to get back in the kayak? But you know what? Push forward and did it. And I'm so glad I did. Another example, just give you one more. wave running, right? I remember being in Mexico one time and I saw all these wave runners on the beach, and I had never really done it. I asked my friend, would you be willing to do this? Because obviously no one wants the blind girl driving the wave runner. And he said, absolutely. So he was in front, I was behind him, and I was like, okay, we're off. This is great. And we're on the ocean. It's wavy, it's bumpy. We're getting some good air and then coming back down on the water. But at one point, a wave kind of took my friend out, and there he went one direction, and it was just me on this wave runner going full speed. I jumped into action. I grabbed the handles, and I turned in a hard right circle. And I thought, okay, well, I don't know if I'm going to hit a boat. I don't know if I'm going to hit sand. I don't know if I'm going to hit another swimmer, but I can't keep going straight. So I did a hard right, and I heard my friend in the background saying, push the red button. Now, that would be great if Nancy could see red. But again, colorblindness, right? So I hear in the distance, it's the furthest one on the left. And so I feel the buttons, the furthest one on the left. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm either going to live or die. We'll see what happens. And I pressed it, and boom, 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 the engine stopped. Now, there's a lot of things that could have gone wrong. And again, I could have been the one that got thrown in the water. My friend had to swim quite far. And again, I'm sure there were a few sharks in that water. But I'm glad I did it. It brought me sweaty palms, but in a crazy way, joy. So again, sometimes joy may be in cleaning the home. My mom loves that. To me, yuck, not something I would sign up for. To me, I love the joy of singing, so I love karaoke. I want you to find your joy, whether that's something that gives you those sweaty palms, something adventurous, something maybe safe like cleaning, or something that allows you to just, belt a song from your inner core. But the time is now to not put those joys at the bottom of your list and put the to-dos first. I want you to switch that and get out there and have fun. So truly, it's been a joy being with you today, and I want you to make sure to go to livingfullout.com to hear all of our shows again. Know that the Living Full Out family, we're right beside you every step of the way. We've got Dirk and Andrew and Caleb and so many people that want you to get out there and do what? Live full out. See you soon.
Thank you for listening to the Living Full Out Show with Nancy Solari. To learn more about this program, visit livingfullout.com for the latest episodes. Connect with the Living Full Out community by following us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and subscribing to our YouTube channel. Here's to you, Living Full Out.